Good morning and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia are withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention. And the agreement bans producing, stockpiling, and using anti-personnel landmines by signatory parties. The decision comes after officials of the four countries earlier declared their readiness to withdraw from the agreement. Now, on Friday, the Lithuanian defense minister said the withdrawal could be part of a broader regional initiative. The country ratified the treaty prohibiting the usage of anti-personnel mines in 2004. The move to leave the convention will require a proposal from the president following approval from the State Defense Council and the Lithuanian parliament. Latvian authorities have initiated a partial closure of several border crossings with Belarus and Russia. The decision comes as a response to increased immigration from Russia and Belarus. Two border crossings with Russia, Terechovo and Grebnevo, and the Paterneki checkpoint on the Latvian border with Belarus will be affected. Some 30 individuals were already detained at the Paterneki crossing on Monday. Now, prompting the closure, the partial shutdown of the three crossings is suggested to last for 6 months, with an option to extend that period or completely close the checkpoints should the situation at the borders with Belarus and Russia deteriorate. The Latvian Interior Ministry says such measures are a response to growing hybrid threats from Russia and Belarus. Today will be a crucial day as high-stakes talks between the Kremlin and Washington are set to take place. Now, Monday night, Donald Trump claimed that without his intervention, Ukrainian soldiers would have already perished. Now, speaking at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., Trump went on to say that the fate of Ukrainian troops will be a key topic in his call with Vladimir Putin later today. Let's now go live to our Kyiv correspondent, Oz Chatterjee. Good morning, Oz. Well, a big day to be expected. Now, what do you think will take place during these calls? How are Ukrainians reacting to this?
Well, it's a crucial day indeed. And it must be said there is some anticipation here in Kyiv. It's not been smooth sailing, the relationship between Kyiv and Washington since Donald Trump was sworn in January. And there is going to be a lot of nervousness about what this call could produce. Let's take a listen to what Donald Trump had to say at the Kennedy Center.
Tremendous things to report. Tomorrow I'm speaking with President Putin of Russia to save some soldiers who are in deep trouble. They're captured. Essentially, they're surrounded by Russian soldiers. So I give you a lot of different things in one news conference, but it's a big deal. They're surrounded by Russian soldiers, and I believe if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't be here any longer. I was able to get them not to do anything at this moment, but it's a bad situation in Russia, and it's a bad situation in Ukraine.
So it must be said that Kyiv has strongly disputed Donald Trump's version of events, and they have disputed the idea that their soldiers were surrounded in the Kursk region, although they have withdrawn from the large parts of the Kursk region that they were occupying. Now, Donald Trump also said that they were closer to peace with Russia than ever before. Well, there's little evidence of that as more strikes have hit Ukraine over the past 24 hours, killing and wounding more Ukrainian civilians. So, look, there is also some reporting in the US media that Donald Trump is considering recognizing Russian control over Crimea in exchange for some sort of deal with the Russians. Now, this would be another politically poisonous move for the Ukrainians. It's very difficult to imagine a Ukrainian government accepting this position officially. So if Donald Trump thinks he's going to get an easy time trying to negotiate peace between Russia and Ukraine, he's probably going to have another thing coming. But still, more to come on this channel when we find out exactly what Putin and Trump say to each other on this phone call later today.
And we will definitely be coming back to you, Oz, for commentary out of Ukraine on that matter. Thank you so much, Oz Chatterjee, coming to us live from Kyiv. And as we heard our correspondent in Ukraine tell us, while Russian attacks against Ukraine have claimed the lives of at least 2 civilians and wounded 13 others over the past day, also according to regional authorities. Now, Ukrainian air defenses shot down 63 of the 137 Russian attack and decoy drones across 12 regions. Now, while 64 decoy drones disappeared from radars, they did not cause any significant damage. In the Donetsk region, Russian strikes wounded 3 people in Pokrovsk and 2 in Konstantinivka. In the Kherson region, 2 people were killed, 7 wounded in the aftermath of the strikes. Air defense systems were also active in Kyiv, with Russian drone wreckage falling on a school in the Desyansky district, but causing no casualties, according to Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko. Poland's Minister for the European Union, Adam Szłapka, was asked about creating cluster organizations in Ukraine. Ahead of the meeting of European ministers, Szłapka said that Poland fully supports Ukraine's integration with Europe.
You know the political situation in terms of bilateral relations between Ukraine and Hungary. We, as I always saying, we are determined as a Polish presidency to move forward the enlargement process. This is one of our priorities during Polish presidency. In a few minutes, we are going to have a meeting with Marta Kos. She is also very determined. Commission is very determined. They are preparing screenings. So we are ready to work on that, but we need unanimity, unfortunately.
Tuesday, the German parliament will vote on a bill that will make it possible to take on unprecedented levels of debt to invest in defense. Now, Germany aims to spend hundreds of billions of euros on national defense and infrastructure renovation. The new plan, however, does require changes to the German constitution. Let's cross now live to our correspondent, Ovidiusz Nicea, who is in Berlin. Good morning, Ovidiusz. So what more details can you give us? I mean, how likely is this bill to pass in the German parliament? What are the main points of contentions? What should we know here?
Well, so the session of the German parliament has just begun. You can see it behind my back. Today is a big day for the German parliament as the amendments to the constitution will be voted. Like you, Diana, said, Germany wants to spend more on the military, and that's why 3 political parties, the Christian Democratic Union, the Social Democrats, and the Greens, have struck an agreement last week to amend one of the constitutional amendments. It's a debt break, which limits the amount of money that Germany can borrow. And if today the vote passes in the German parliament, this could activate additional €1 trillion in new investments over the next decade. You have asked how possible it is that the vote will pass today. Well, theoretically, these 3 parties have the constitutional majority, the 2/3 majority required to amend the constitution. However, they have only 31 votes above this majority. So if some parliamentarians decide to vote against it, and there have already been parliamentarians from the CDU, from the SPD, who have said that they will not vote in favor of softening the debt break, there is a chance that this vote would not pass. However, Friedrich Merz, the upcoming Chancellor of Germany, has said that he's confident that the vote will pass. And so today is a big day testing this alliance of these 3 parties. Back to you, Diana.
So much, Ovidiusz Nicea, coming to us live from Berlin. We will be coming back to you for developments. On Monday, Belarusian authorities sentenced a Japanese national to 7 years in prison on espionage charges. Masatoshi Nakanishi was convicted for allegedly taking over 9,000 photos of civilian and military infrastructure.
Authorities accused Nakanishi of taking photos of railway infrastructure and traveling to the Ukrainian border. The Japanese national has been in custody since July for allegedly spying for a foreign intelligence service between 2018 and 2024. His closed-door trial took the Belarusian authorities some 2 months. Despite appeals and diplomatic letters, the Japanese embassy in Belarus was barred from attending the court proceedings. Since taking power in 1994, Lukashenko has imprisoned hundreds of his political opponents and human rights activists under the guise of anti-state activity. There are currently 1,200 political prisoners in the country.
The presidential campaign in Poland is gaining momentum as the May vote draws closer. Now, the latest survey brings a surprising shift as the support for the main opposition candidate has just dropped below 20%. Now, our chief political correspondent, Aaron Damon, has the latest from the race for the presidential palace in Warsaw.
This is the centrist frontrunner in Poland's presidential battle, Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski.
And we need to do absolutely everything to convince President Trump's administration to behave predictably, to explain the rationale, above all to explain that if Putin, God forbid, were to win this war, that both the security of Europe but also the security of the United States would stand to lose.
Trzaskowski is running on the same foreign policy platform as Prime Minister Donald Tusk, a pro-Ukrainian Poland with deep European ties and a strong transatlantic relationship. He's also the governing coalition's only real hope to end Tusk's ongoing cohabitation with current President Andrzej Duda, who cannot be re-elected after 2 terms in office.
I never thought I would say this, but I ask you very much not to make us miss Andrzej Duda.
That's Trzaskowski appearing to take a dig at his competitors, including Karol Nawrocki, who's backed by the opposition right-wing Law and Justice Party. Nawrocki, a historian and Eurosceptic with little political experience, has embraced the rebellion against the old world order while tapping into growing anti-Ukrainian discontent.
This will be a referendum on Donald Tusk's government. When you vote for Trzaskowski, you are voting for Tusk. When you vote for Nawrocki, you vote against Tusk.
But Nawrocki is struggling to gain traction, and in recent days his campaign has drawn criticism after posts shared by at least 2 Law and Justice MPs. Why? Because according to analysis conducted by TVP World, these photos are highly likely to be fake images generated by artificial intelligence. There's no suggestion Nawrocki's campaign signed off on the posts.
I do believe that if you try to make a claim that you're supported by the people, it's not a very good strategy to have to create them on the internet through the artificial intelligence.
The Civic Coalition has also previously been reported as using AI for social media ahead of the last general election. But this comes as pressure mounts on Nawrocki, while Sławomir Mencen of the far-right Confederation makes inroads with younger voters as he echoes Russian narratives.
A Pole in Poland to get treatment at a doctor is to pay health premium, and the Ukrainian doesn't have to. They have organized medical tourism for themselves with our money.
Although Trzaskowski remains the front-runner, Mencen has already once surpassed Nawrocki in the polls, and in a more recent count on Monday, the pair were neck and neck within the margin of error.
So it is not very clear if what we're saying is for real, or is it just because of the immense popularity of Mr. Mencen on social media.
The race to second place is critical because as long as no candidate gets a majority on May 18, voters will go to the polls again in a final runoff on the 1st of June. Aaron Darman, TVP World.
Israel Defense Forces launched a wave of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip early on Tuesday, as instructed by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The IDF has now issued an evacuation order for a number of neighborhoods in the Gaza Strip. Now, Gaza's health ministry, that's run by Hamas, has reported that the attacks killed over 330 people, many of them children. The Israeli Prime Minister says he instructed the military to take, quote, strong action against Hamas in Gaza, as there was no progress in talks to extend the ceasefire. Israeli officials say the operation is expected to expand. And negotiations on the second phase of the ceasefire were scheduled to begin in early February of 2025. During the first phase, Israeli hostages were released, And in turn, Palestinians imprisoned by Israel were handed back to the West Bank and Gaza. Egypt, Qatar, and the United States were mediating talks on the next phases. However, the White House said it had been consulted on and supports Israel's latest strikes.
A series of attacks against Hamas targets in Gaza. We will show no mercy on our enemies. Let me be very clear. Israel will not stop until all of our hostages are back home. We will make it very clear to the Security Council that if they want to stop the war in Gaza, they have to ensure that the hostages are coming back to Israel. We are committed to bring them back.
And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.